The moment you realize your children no longer want you in their lives is like someone violently ripping the air from your lungs. One second you are breathing, and the next you are drowning in plain sight. I know this because I lived it. I was standing at my son's front door on Christmas Day with my arms full of carefully wrapped gifts when he looked me in the eye and said, "I am sorry, but I think you have the wrong house. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and comment where you are watching from. My name is Emily, and this is my story. I was always the type of mother who would move mountains for her children. When my husband died unexpectedly, 19 years ago, leaving me alone with 2 teenagers and a mortgage I could barely pay, I did not crumble. I could not do that. Michael was 15 and Sarah was 13. They needed stability. They needed a mother who could be both parents. So I became that person. I sold our family home in the suburbs. We moved into a modest 2-bedroom apartment, and I took night shifts at the public hospital where I worked as a nurse. I cut my own hair. I learned to fix the plumbing by myself, and I drove the same car for 12 years because every extra dollar went toward my children's future. I wanted them to have the opportunities their father and I had dreamed of giving them, and they had them. I will give them that. Michael graduated with a degree in business administration, married his college girlfriend Jessica, and got a job at a financial firm in Chicago. Sarah followed a similar path. She graduated in marketing and moved to Seattle to take a position in marketing. I was so proud that it did not bother me that they almost never called, or that my birthdays went unacknowledged, and that invitations to visit them were scarce. They are busy building their lives. I told my sister Diane when she questioned their absence. That is what we raised them for. But at 58 years old, after 33 years of being a mother, I was tired. Tired of being an afterthought. Tired of the tone of obligation in their voices when they called. Tired of sending checks every month to help with mortgages, car payments, and daycare. Money that I could have been saving for my own retirement. Money that was almost never acknowledged except for a quick text. Received. Thanks. Still, I persisted because that is what mothers do right. We give and give until there is nothing left. That December, I made a decision. I was going to spend Christmas with my grandchildren. Michael and Jessica had 2 beautiful children waiting for me. 6-year-old Chloe and 4-year-old Matthew, whom I had only seen a few times. Sarah was expecting her first child in March. I wanted to be part of their lives, not just a signature on a card or a voice on the phone. I called Michael in early December with my heart racing as I rehearsed what I was going to say. "Mom," he answered, distracted. I could hear the noise of his office in the background. "Hello, son. I will not take much of your time. I just wanted to know if I could come over this Christmas. I would love to see the kids open their gifts." There was a pause, followed by the sound of a door closing. When he spoke again, his voice was lower. "Christmas. I do not know, Mom. Jessica's parents are coming and we do not have much space. I can stay at a hotel." I offered immediately. "I will not be in the way." Another pause let me talk to Jessica, and I will let you know. He never did. After a week of silence, I called again. This time, it went straight to voicemail. I left a message making sure my voice sounded steady. "Michael, it is Mom. I just wanted to know if you talked to Jessica about Christmas. I found an affordable hotel nearby. Call me when you can." 3 days later, I received a text. "Christmas is fine. Dinner at 3. No need for a hotel. You can use the guest room." I was filled with joy. I booked my flight immediately. I spent hours choosing gifts for the children. I even treated myself to a new emerald green dress with a modest neckline that matched my silver hair. I wanted to look good for the family photos. The flight to Chicago on Christmas Eve was turbulent, but my spirits were high. I took a taxi from the airport to the address Michael had given me, a colonial-style house in a quiet residential area. The neighborhood looked like a postcard with manicured lawns and Christmas lights adorning the houses. I felt a surge of pride. My son had made it. I arrived shortly after 2 in the afternoon, dragging my suitcase up the freshly swept path. I saw movement behind the frosted glass of the front door. My heart was pounding as I rang the doorbell, smoothing my coat with nervous hands. The door opened, and there was Michael. His expression went from surprise to something I could not name. He was taller than I remembered, with his dark hair already speckled with gray at the temples. He looked so much like his father that my throat closed up. Mom, the coldness of his greeting. The flight arrived earlier than expected. I really wanted to see you all. He did not move to let me in. Behind him, I could hear laughter and Christmas music. We did not expect you until tomorrow, he said, positioning himself to better block the entrance. I frowned, feeling confusion cover me like a cold mist. Your message said dinner at 3. Today is Christmas. Christmas dinner is tomorrow, he corrected with an impatient tone. Today is Christmas Eve. I took out my cell phone with hands trembling a little and found the message. Look here, it says. Christmas is fine dinner at 3. He barely looked at the screen. That was not what I meant. Look, Mom, today is just family. Jessica's parents are here, and we are going to do something just for us. Tomorrow is when we do the big dinner with the extended family. Extended family. The words hurt more than they should have. I swallowed hard, forcing a smile. That is fine. I can come back tomorrow. Could you direct me to my hotel, the one you said I did not need to book because I could stay in the guest room? Something crossed his face. Guilt, maybe. The guest room is not ready. We thought you were coming tomorrow. I stood there with my suitcase in hand while reality began to settle in. Then where am I supposed to stay tonight? He had the decency to look uncomfortable. There is a Holiday Inn about 15 minutes from here. I can call to see if they have a room available. Behind him, a little voice asked, Daddy, who is at the door? Michael turned, immediately changing his body language. Nobody, honey. Go back to Grandma and Grandpa. Nobody. That was what I was to my own son. Nobody. I took a step back. Dignity was the only thing keeping me standing. Do not bother with the hotel. I will figure it out. Mom, he started. I interrupted him. Merry Christmas, Michael. Give my love to the kids. I turned around and walked away. The suitcase felt heavier with each step. I did not look back, not even when I heard the door close. I made it to the end of the block before the tears came hot and furious against my cold cheeks. It was there, sitting on a bench at a bus stop under a freezing drizzle, when I decided I would not go to a hotel. I would come back the next day as planned. Maybe it had been a genuine misunderstanding. Maybe tomorrow would be different. It was not. When I returned the next day at exactly 2:45 in the afternoon, dressed in my new emerald green dress and with my arms full of gifts, Michael opened the door and said those unforgivable words. I am sorry. I think you have the wrong house. For a moment, I thought he was joking, a cruel joke that would end in laughter and apologies. But his eyes were cold and unfamiliar. Behind him, I caught a glimpse of a Christmas tree surrounded by gifts, a table set for dinner, and the back of Jessica's head arranging something on the sideboard. Michael, I said with a voice barely audible. It is me. It is Mom. He did not flinch. I think you have the wrong address. No, Michael lives here. And he closed the door. I stood there paralyzed while the world seemed to tilt. This could not be happening. Not to me. Not after everything. I was halfway down the path when my phone rang. Michael's name appeared on the screen. I answered with hope fluttering in my chest. Mom. His voice was different now, casual, almost amused. Sorry about that. Jessica's parents are very traditional and they do not know about, the financial arrangement we have. We want to keep the peace. Financial arrangement, I repeated with foreign words in my mouth. Yes, the monthly support. Look, why don't you go back to your hotel? I will call you tomorrow when everything calms down. I do not have a hotel, Michael. I came to spend Christmas with my family. He sighed, a harsh sound in my ear. Mom, I cannot deal with this right now. Just give us some space, okay? We will fix it later. I do not understand. I whispered, my voice cracking. What did I do? Nothing. It is not. Look, I have to hang up. Dinner is almost ready. Michael, wait. Relax, Mom. We just want peace. I took a deep breath, my whole body shaking. I understand. I was about to hang up when I heard it. Michael's voice a bit muffled, as if he had pulled the phone away but hadn't hung up yet. She thinks the money she sends every month buys her a seat at the table. The phone slipped from my hand and hit the wet pavement with a soft thud. I stared at it for a moment before slowly bending down to pick it up. The call was still active. I ended it with a shaking finger. She thinks the money she sends every month buys her a seat at the table. The words echoed in my head as I walked back to the main avenue, dragging my suitcase in the cold rain. They echoed in my head when I hailed a taxi, when I checked into the hotel, and when I sat on the edge of the bed clutching my purse with white knuckles. And they kept echoing late that night. When I opened my banking app and with a calm I had not felt in years, I canceled the automatic transfers to both my children's accounts. I slept surprisingly well, without tears, without doubts. Only the heavy, dreamless sleep of someone who has finally let go of an unbearable burden. When I woke up the next morning, my phone showed 25 missed calls, 15 from Michael and 10 from Sarah. There were dozens of messages, each one more desperate than the last. Mom, the transfer did not go through. Is everything okay? Mom, I need that money for Matthew's daycare. Please call now. What is happening, Mom? I'm going to be late on the mortgage. Call me now. I read them without emotion, as if they were messages directed at someone else. Then I silenced the phone. I left it on the nightstand and went to take a long, hot shower. While the water fell over me, I made a decision. I was done. Done being used. Done being invisible. Except when they needed my money. Done putting my life on pause for children who saw me as a simple ATM. I dressed carefully in the clothes I had packed for Christmas dinner. I applied my makeup with a steady hand and arranged my silver hair in soft waves. In the mirror, I looked different lighter. The constant worry that had marked my face for years seemed less deep. At the hotel reception, I extended my stay for 3 more days. I needed time to think, to plan. Then I walked to a nearby cafe. I ordered a cappuccino with breakfast and took out my tablet. For years, I dreamed of traveling, but I always found reasons not to do it. The kids might need me. The money could help them instead of spending it on myself. It was not safe for a woman my age to travel alone. Excuses, all excuses that had kept me tied to a life that little by little had been emptying me out. Now, with a clarity that surprised me, I booked a one-way ticket to Bangkok, departing in 2 days. Thailand had always fascinated me with its temples and vibrant street life. From there, I could travel through Southeast Asia at my own pace. The thought provoked a shiver, an emotion I barely recognized as excitement. My phone kept vibrating on the table. This time it was Sarah. Her name flashed insistently on the screen. After a moment of hesitation, I answered. Mom. Finally. What is going on with the transfers, she said. Michael told me he did not receive his either, not even a greeting. How are you? Straight to the money. Hello, Sarah, I replied calmly. I have decided to suspend the monthly transfers. There was a second of silence followed by a choked sound. What did you do? What do you mean, suspend them? You cannot do that. I count on that money for the baby's room. I am sorry to hear that I said taking a sip of my cappuccino. I suggest you and Daniel adjust your budget. This is because of Michael, isn't it? He told me what happened. It was a misunderstanding, Mom. You are exaggerating. It is not about Michael, I said, although we both knew it was only partially true. It is about me finally recognizing my own worth. She laughed, a hard, joyless laugh. Your worth, Mom. You are almost 60 years old. This is not the moment to find yourself, nor for the midlife crisis you are having. The comment should have hurt me, but it only reinforced my decision. I am 58 years old, Sarah. I am not dead, and I have already put my life on pause long enough. So that is it. You cut off our support without warning because your feelings got hurt. Very mature, Mom. I closed my eyes for an instant, seeking calm. I have given both of you more than $1,000 a month for years. It is more than enough time to become financially independent. We are independent, she replied. But right now, everything is tight with the baby on the way, and Daniel's job, which is commission-based. Then maybe it is time to make difficult decisions like I took when your father died, I answered. Reduce expenses, work more cut coupons. I cannot believe you are doing this, she said, her voice trembling with anger. After everything we have been through as a family. That is the point, Sarah. We have not been a family for a long time. I am just recognizing the reality of our relationship. I heard her breathing with difficulty on the other end of the line. When she spoke again, her tone had changed now, soft, almost pleading. Mom, please. I know Michael was an idiot at Christmas, but do not punish me for his mistake. I need you. The baby needs you. The emotional manipulation was so evident it was almost ridiculous. 5 minutes ago, I was having a midlife crisis. Now they needed me. I am not punishing anyone, I said. For the first time, I am choosing myself. I already booked a flight to Thailand. Thailand, she repeated, incredulous. Are you crazy? And when the baby is born, are you going to miss the birth of your first grandson? I will send gifts. I replied softly, just like you send birthday cards when you remember. There was a long silence then with a voice loaded with poison. Dad would be so ashamed of you. The call cut off. I stared at the phone, waiting for the pain, the guilt, the overwhelming need to call her and apologize. It did not come. Instead, I felt a strange peace, as if the last tie binding me to my old life had snapped. I spent the rest of the day preparing for the trip. I called the landlord of my apartment to give notice. I arranged with my sister Diane to pack my things to store or donate them, and I called my supervisor at the hospital to submit my resignation. 32 years of service ended with a brief call and the promise to send my formal letter by mail. By nightfall, my phone had gone silent. No more calls from either of my children. I thought maybe they were talking to each other, painting me as the villain of their story. The idea no longer bothered me like before. I ordered room service and opened my laptop to search for accommodation in Bangkok. As I scrolled through images of golden temples and markets full of life, I felt a lightness in my chest, a sensation so unfamiliar I took a while to recognize it. Freedom. The next morning, there was a knock on my hotel room door. Upon opening it, I found Michael. His face was gaunt, his eyes red. He had driven from Chicago all the way back to the suburbs, tracking me through my credit card charges. Mom, he said, we need to talk. I stepped aside to let him pass my face, carefully neutral. He entered cautiously, as if expecting a trap. You have caused quite a panic, I said, pointing him to the armchair by the window. I remained standing. He ran a hand through his messy hair. What did you expect? You cut off our money without warning. You disappeared from your apartment. You quit your job. Aunt Diane thought maybe you... He fell silent. That I had taken my own life, I completed. How dramatic and how interesting that the possibility of my death was necessary for you to come all the way here. That is not fair, he said with a flash of anger. I am here now, aren't I? Yes, I answered, now that your mortgage payment is at risk. He lowered his gaze, ashamed. It is not about the money. It has always been about the money, Michael. Only I did not want to see it. He leaned forward with elbows resting on his knees. Look, I know I handled the Christmas thing badly. Jessica's parents are tremendously judgmental, and I panicked. I am sorry. I am sure you are, I replied with a voice void of sympathy. But this is not just about Christmas. It is about years of being an afterthought, of only being worth what I could provide. That is not true, he protested weakly. Is it not? When was the last time you called me just to chat? When was the last time you invited me to visit without me having to ask? When was the last time you truly thanked me? Did you really thank me for everything I have sacrificed for you? He had no answer. I approached the minibar, took out 2 bottles of water, and gave him one. He accepted it with a murmured thanks, twisting the cap without drinking. Mom, I know I have been distant, he said finally. "Both of us have been. Life gets heavy. Work, kids, mortgages. You know how it is." "Yes, I do know," I replied, sitting on the edge of the bed. "I raised 2 children alone while working full-time. Even so, I called my mother every Sunday until the day she died." He grimaced. "That is different." "How?" "It just is," he said with frustration in his voice. "Look, we are not perfect. We should call more, visit more. I get it, but cutting off our financial support without warning and then leaving the country, that is extreme. Even for you, as if I had a history of irrational behavior and not a lifetime of devotion." "I am not running away," I corrected. "I am traveling." Something I wanted to do for years and could not, because I was busy making sure you and your sister had everything you needed and apparently everything you wanted. And now you punish us for not being grateful enough." I observed him. That man who was once my sweet boy, when had he become so entitled? This might surprise you, Michael, but not everything revolves around you. This is about me finally living my life on my own terms. He scoffed, sure. "That is why you had this epiphany right after Christmas. You are confusing cause and effect," I said. "Christmas did not provoke this decision. It only confirmed what I had suspected for years. To you two, I am nothing more than a financial convenience." "That is not true," he insisted, although he looked away. "We love you." "Maybe in your own way," I conceded. "But love without respect is not love. It is obligation." He took a sip of water, swallowing with difficulty. When he looked at me again, his expression had changed to something more calculating. "So what will it take?" he asked. To fix this, he clarified, making a vague gesture between us. "What do you want? More visits? Weekly calls? We can do it." The transactional nature of his offer churned my stomach. "I do not want anything from you that does not come freely." "Then what is the point of all this?" he demanded, raising his voice. "If you are not trying to teach us a lesson or get some promise, what are you doing?" "I am freeing myself," I said simply. "And in doing so, I am also freeing you. Free from the obligation, free from pretending, free from the burden of a mother who, according to you, embarrasses you so much, you pretended not to know her at the door of your own house." He had the decency to blush. "I already told you that was a mistake. I panicked." "No, Michael. A mistake is forgetting a birthday. A mistake is burning dinner. What you did was a choice that showed exactly how you see me. A single bad moment does not erase 20 years of what?" I interrupted him. "Of me giving and you taking. You are right. It does not erase it, but it clarifies it." He stood up abruptly and started pacing the small hotel room. "So that is it. Are you done with us? With your own children?" "I am done being used," I corrected. "If you and Sarah want a relationship with me, a real one based on mutual respect and affection, I am open. But it will not include financial support, and it will not be just on your terms. And if we do not accept your conditions—" "They are not conditions, Michael. They are boundaries. And if you cannot respect them, then yes, I suppose I am done." He looked at me as if seeing me for the first time. Maybe he was. For most of his adult life, I had been a voice on the phone, a signature on a check, a benevolent ghost who appeared briefly at graduations and weddings before disappearing again. "I cannot believe you are doing this," he said, repeating his sister's words. "From the day before, after everything Dad and I sacrificed." I interrupted him with a dry laugh. "Your father died 19 years ago. What exactly have you sacrificed, Michael? Please enlighten me." He opened his mouth and closed it. We both knew the answer. "I thought so," I said, standing up. "I think it is time for you to leave. I have a flight tomorrow and I still have to make preparations." He did not move. "Are you really going to do it? Thailand?" "Yes." "For how long?" "I do not know," I admitted. "As long as it feels right. Maybe a month, maybe a year. And the house, your job, your life. I already gave notice that I am leaving the apartment. Diane will take care of my things. And regarding my job, I have worked at the same hospital for more than 3 decades. I think I have earned a break." His face hardened. And the money, our money. There it was. Finally, the true reason for his visit. There is no our money, Michael. There never was. It was my money that I decided to share. Now I decide otherwise. We have obligations, Mom. Mortgages, car payments, Chloe's private school, Matthew's therapies. All decisions you made, I pointed out. Decisions you will now have to finance on your own like any other adult. He passed a hand over his face, desperation peeking through. We cannot reorganize our entire financial life overnight. We need time to adjust. You have had years to adjust, I replied. Years knowing those transfers were not going to last forever. What did you think was going to happen when I retired? I do not know. I did not think about it. He exploded. Is that what you want to hear? That we took you for granted? Okay, we did. I am sorry. But you cannot simply... Yes, I can, I said quietly, and I already did. We looked at each other across the room. The distance between us was much greater than the few feet of hotel carpet. In his eyes, I saw the slow realization that he had lost, that no argument or guilt would change my decision. What am I supposed to tell Sarah, he asked finally. Whatever you want. The truth might be refreshing, but I would not count on it. He grabbed his coat from the chair. You know she is pregnant. The stress of all this is not good for her or the baby. One last attempt at manipulation. I almost admired his persistence. Sarah is a grown woman with a husband and medical knowledge. I am sure she can handle her stress appropriately. He put on his coat with sharp movements containing his anger. When Dad died, you promised you would always be there for us. And I was. I replied with a calm that hid the storm inside. For 19 years, I was there for everything that mattered. But promises are two-sided. Michael, where were you when I needed you? He had no answer. With one last hard look, he went to the door. This is not over, he said with his hand on the doorknob. For me it is. After he left, I sat heavily on the bed, waiting for the delayed wave of pain or guilt to finally hit me. It did not come. Instead, I felt a strange sense of closure, as if I had finally finished a book I had been reading for too long. I picked up the phone and called Diane. Hello, sister, she answered cautiously. How are you? Better than I expected, I said honestly. Michael found me. I know. He called me yesterday. He was in a panic. I hope you do not mind that I told him where you might be. It is fine. It was a conversation that had to happen. There was a pause, and nothing has changed. Nothing. Tomorrow I continue with the plan. I am going to Thailand. She sighed slowly. I have to say it, Emily. You surprised me. I never thought you would actually do it. Neither did they, I replied with a hint of satisfaction. That was their mistake. They are devastated, you know. Sarah called me crying for an hour last night, about the money or about me. Diane's silence was answer enough. I thought so, I said. How are you doing with the apartment? I already started packing the essentials. The lease ends at the end of next month, so we have time. What do you want me to do with everything? Keep what you want. Donate the rest. From now on, I travel light, Emily said doubtfully. Are you sure about traveling alone at our age? I was sure enough to raise 2 children alone, I reminded her. I think I can handle a trip to Thailand. It is not the same. No, I accepted. This will be much easier. She laughed despite herself. You know, I almost envy you. While you explore temples in Bangkok, I will be watching TV with Jerry. You could come, I suggested impulsively. Not immediately, but maybe in a few months. We could meet in Vietnam or Cambodia. There was a pause full of possibilities. I will think about it, she said finally. Jerry will need convincing, but I will think about it. After hanging up, I went back to packing. Every object that went into the suitcase felt like one more step toward freedom. I brought only the necessary clothes for different climates, comfortable shoes, my medications, and a tablet loaded with books I had been wanting to read for years. I also transferred a significant portion of my savings money I had kept for emergencies, which were almost always my children's emergencies, to a travel account. The rest would remain untouched, growing quietly for my eventual return, whenever that happened. At nightfall, I ordered my last American dinner for a while, a cheeseburger and fries from the hotel restaurant, and ate it watching the sunset from the window. My phone remained silent, not one more call from Michael or Sarah. Maybe they had accepted the new reality, or maybe they were planning their next attempt. It did not matter. By this time tomorrow, I would be thousands of miles away, starting the next chapter of my life without obligations, without guilt, without the constant wear of unilateral love. For the first time in decades, I was putting myself first, and it felt like waking up from a very long dream. Bangkok welcomed me with a wall of humid heat and a cacophony of sounds taxis, honking vendors calling out to tourists, the musical rhythm of the Thai language. After 22 hours of travel, I should have been exhausted, but adrenaline carried me through immigration and into a taxi heading to the small, charming hotel I had booked in the Sukhumvit district. The driver chatted kindly in broken English, pointing out landmarks as we moved through traffic. I nodded and smiled, still adjusting to the reality that I was there on the other side of the world, far from everything familiar. My phone had remained silent since I left North American airspace. I sent Diane a brief text to say I had arrived safely and nothing more. There was something liberating about being unreachable, about letting the distance between my old life and the new one widen with every hour. The hotel was a lovely 6-story building tucked away on a quiet street. My room was small but elegant, with a balcony overlooking a courtyard full of tropical plants. I washed off the travel grime under the shower. I changed into clean clothes and went out to face the Bangkok evening. For the next week, I lived in a pleasant haze of discovery. I visited the Grand Palace with its golden spires shining under the sun. I walked through temples where monks in saffron robes moved in silent contemplation. I ate pad thai from street stalls and bargained for souvenirs in huge markets. I took a cooking class and learned to make green curry from scratch. At night, I sat on the balcony, drank Chang beer, and wrote in the journal I had started on the plane. Not about my children, nor about the pain of Christmas. Those memories now seemed to belong to someone else. I wrote about the colors, the sounds, and the flavors of Thailand, about the older woman who taught me to wrap a sarong correctly, about the young backpacker from Australia who shared his table with me in a crowded restaurant and told me stories of his travels through Southeast Asia. On my 10th day in Bangkok, I returned to the hotel and found an email from Sarah. The subject simply said, "We need to talk." I considered ignoring it, but curiosity won out. I opened it while taking off my sandals and sitting on the bed. "Mom, it has been almost 2 weeks since you left in all this, whatever this is. Michael told me about his conversation with you at the hotel. I think you are being incredibly selfish and short-sighted, but that apparently is nothing new. What is new is that my doctor is worried about my blood pressure. The stress of your little disappearance has put my pregnancy at risk. Daniel and I face the real possibility of complications, and the economic pressure does not help. We are about to fall behind on the mortgage payment, and Daniel's commission checks have been lower than expected this quarter. I do not know what point you are trying to prove, but I hope the possible damage to your grandson is worth it. If something happens to this baby because of the stress you have caused, I will never forgive you. Never. We need the support you promised us. We built our lives around that. You cannot change the rules without warning. If you have any love left for this family, you will reconsider this selfish decision and come home. Sarah." I read the email twice, noting the careful mix of guilt accusations and veiled threats. Classic Sarah, even as a teenager, had been an expert in emotional manipulation. A bad grade was never her fault, but the teacher's. Being late was not her responsibility, but because a friend needed her. There was always someone else to blame, always a reason why the rules shouldn't apply to her. And now her unborn son had become the latest piece in her game. I set the phone aside and walked to the balcony looking at the unknown skyline. The Emily from before would have panicked, would have transferred money immediately and booked a return flight. She would have accepted the guilt, apologized endlessly, and resumed her role as the family's safety net. But that woman no longer existed. She had been left behind in a hotel room in the suburbs. I picked up the phone again and drafted a reply. Sarah, I am sorry to hear about your blood pressure problems. Pregnancy can be stressful even in the best circumstances, and I hope you are following your doctor's instructions to manage your condition. Regarding the financial situation, I have been clear about my stance. The monthly transfers will not resume. This is not a negotiation nor a temporary measure to teach you a lesson. It is a permanent change in our relationship. You mentioned the support I promised. I do not recall promising lifetime financial support to two adults with advanced degrees and professional careers. What I did promise was to love you and prepare you for an independent adult life. I have fulfilled both things. I hope you find a way to manage your finances that does not depend on my checkbook. Perhaps this is an opportunity to rethink priorities and make difficult but necessary decisions. Take care of yourself and the baby. Mom. I pressed send before I could doubt it and then turned off the phone completely. I needed to clear my mind. I spent the afternoon at a nearby temple, finding peace in its quiet corners and in the serene smile of a Buddha statue that seemed to approve of my decisions. By nightfall, I made a decision. Thailand had been wonderful, but it was time to move on. My initial plan had been to stay in Bangkok for at least a month, but Sarah's email had tainted the city somehow. I needed to start fresh again. The next morning, I booked a flight to Hanoi, Vietnam, departing in 3 days. I had heard the north was beautiful this time of year, with limestone formations rising above mist-covered waters and communities preserving centuries-old traditions. When I finally turned on the phone, there were no new messages from Sarah, but there was a voicemail from Michael. His voice sounded tense, loaded with contained anger. Mom, I do not know what you told Sarah, but she was admitted to the hospital with pregnancy complications. The doctor is talking about possible bed rest for the remainder of the pregnancy, which means she will have to take unpaid leave. Daniel cannot cover the expenses alone. This is no longer a game. We are talking about your grandson's health. Call me. I sat heavily on the edge of the bed, my hands suddenly cold. Was it possible? Could my actions have worsened Sarah's condition? The familiar weight of maternal guilt fell upon me, threatening to crush the fragile independence I had built over the last 2 weeks. Then I remembered Sarah's history, how she faked a sprained ankle to get out of a math exam in middle school, how she claimed to have food poisoning to skip a family gathering she didn't want to attend, how she had manipulated me time and again with calculated displays of distress. I called Michael back. When he answered, his voice was dry. Finally, "How is Sarah?" I asked, keeping a neutral tone. "Stable. They are monitoring her and the baby. Her blood pressure spiked dangerously after your email." "I see," I said carefully. "And what exactly did my email say that was so shocking?" He paused. "I do not know. She was too upset to show me. Something about cutting off support permanently. I only reaffirmed what I had already told both of you. That financial support had ended. Nothing new, nothing unexpected. Well, whatever you said, it sent her to the hospital. Are you happy now?" The accusation hung between us thousands of miles apart, but connected by the known dance of guilt and obligation. "No, Michael. I am not happy that Sarah is in the hospital, but I am also not responsible for her medical condition. Pregnant women can have high blood pressure for many reasons." "You are unbelievable," he muttered. "Your daughter is in the hospital, maybe facing a high-risk pregnancy, and you are in Thailand playing tourist and making excuses." "I am not making excuses," I replied. "I am stating facts. And since you mention it, yes, I am in Thailand finally living my life after decades of putting everyone else first. At what cost, Mom? Your family, your grandchildren. My family exists whether I finance them or not, I pointed out, and my grandchildren will know me as a person, not as a checkbook, or they will not know me at all. That now depends on you and Sarah. There was a long silence. Then with a voice so low I had to strain to hear it. I need $10,000. The bluntness of the request ripped a brief laugh from me. Excuse me, for Sarah's medical expenses, to cover her unpaid leave. So they do not lose the house. $10,000. A loan, if that makes you feel better. We will pay you back when... No, I interrupted him. Not $10,000, not $1. I am not sending money, Michael. Then you are condemning your daughter and your grandson to financial ruin, he said bitterly. I hope your temples and elephant rides are worth it. The call cut off before I could respond. I stood motionless for several minutes with the phone still glued to my ear. Known guilt pulled at me, whispering that a good mother would help, would sacrifice, would put her children first. But another voice, newer and stronger, reminded me that I had already helped for years. I had sacrificed my security for retirement, my dreams, my self-respect. I had put them first at the cost of everything else in my life. And where had that led me? To standing at a door on Christmas Day, hearing that I was at the wrong house. No, I was done. I put the phone down and went back to the balcony. The sun was setting over Bangkok, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Tomorrow I would visit the floating markets. The next day, maybe the ancient city of Ayutthaya, and in 3 days I would board a plane to Vietnam, leaving this chapter behind. Whatever happened with Sarah and her pregnancy, whatever financial difficulties my children faced without my support, those were now their stories, not mine. For the first time in decades, I was writing my own story, and it would not be a tragedy. 6 months passed in a kaleidoscope of new experiences. Vietnam took me to Cambodia, where I spent quiet mornings watching the sun rise over Angkor Wat. From there, I traveled to Laos and then Malaysia. Each country offered its own lesson on learning to let go. I volunteered at a medical clinic in a remote village in northern Thailand. My nursing skills transcended language barriers. I learned to dive off the coast of Malaysia, discovering a silent world of color and movement underwater. I celebrated my 59th birthday on a beach in Bali, sharing cake with a group of travelers half my age who insisted I join their bonfire. During all that time, I maintained minimal contact with home. Diane and I exchanged emails every week. She informed me of the essentials, but respected my wish not to talk about Michael or Sarah unless it was absolutely necessary. From her brief updates, I learned that Sarah had been on bed rest but had given birth to a healthy baby girl in March, my 3rd grandchild, whom they named Valeria. There was no birth announcement, no photos, no invitation to meet the new member of a family that in fact had excluded me. That knowledge stayed like a small stone in my heart, not heavy enough to sink me, but present. In June, while walking through a night market in Chiang Mai, my phone vibrated with an email from an unknown address. The subject said, "From Daniel, Sarah's husband." I found a quiet corner away from the bustle and opened it. Emily. I am writing to you without Sarah knowing. She would be furious if she knew I was communicating with you, but I think you deserve to know what has been happening. Things have been difficult since you left. Sarah had a complicated pregnancy and delivery, as you perhaps heard. Valeria is perfect and healthy, but Sarah has struggled with postpartum depression in addition to financial stress. We have had to make major changes. We sold the house and moved to a smaller apartment. Sarah returned to work sooner than recommended by her doctor. I have taken consulting jobs on top of my regular employment. It has been complicated, but we are making it. Michael and Jessica have faced similar adjustments. They pulled Chloe out of private school and put their vacation cabin up for sale. Michael took a second job on weekends. I am not telling you this to make you feel guilty, but so you understand the reality we have been living. The reason I am writing is that Sarah received a job offer in the city, an important promotion that would mean financial stability for us. The problem is we would need temporary housing while we look for a place of our own. Your apartment, according to Diane, is still empty but paid for. Sarah is too proud to ask, so I am doing it for her, for us, for Valeria. I know we have no right to ask you for anything. I know my wife and her brother treated you unforgivably. I will not make excuses for them or for me because I remained silent for too long. If you are still reading, thank you. If you decide not to respond, I will understand. I just wanted you to know that despite everything your family misses, you not your money, you, Daniel. I stared at the screen, mixed emotions swirling inside me. It was the first honest communication I received from any of them without manipulation, without demands, just a direct request and an acknowledgement of past mistakes. For a moment, I allowed myself to imagine saying yes, offering them the apartment, returning to the city, meeting my granddaughter, trying to rebuild some form of family. The road back to my previous life stretched out in front of me, familiar and safe. But then I remembered Christmas Day, the casual cruelty, the years of being taken for granted, the desperate calls that only came when the money stopped. Not your money, you. A nice sentiment, but was it true? Or just a more sophisticated form of manipulation? I closed the email without replying and returned to the vibrant chaos of the night market. I needed time to think. The next morning, I sat on the guest house balcony watching the city come to life below. After careful thought, I drafted my reply, "Daniel, thank you for your email. I appreciate your honesty about the family situation and the acknowledgement of past behavior. I'm sorry to hear Sarah had difficulties during pregnancy and delivery and that both of you have had to make complicated financial adjustments. The same applies to Michael and his family. These are hard lessons but necessary ones. Regarding the apartment, it is paid for until the end of August, after which Diane will handle the final closing of the lease. You and Sarah can use it until then with the understanding that this is a temporary arrangement and not a resumption of financial support. Diane has a key and can make the necessary arrangements. Please understand that this gesture does not erase the past, nor does it change my decision to live my own life. I will not be returning to the city in the foreseeable future. My journey has become something more than a reaction to that Christmas Day. It is a recovery of myself after decades of putting everyone else first. As for meeting Valeria, maybe someday, but not now, not like this. If at some point we meet again, it must be on the basis of mutual respect and genuine affection, not out of necessity or convenience. I wish the best to you, Sarah and Valeria. Emily. I pressed send, closed the laptop, and started packing. My flight to Japan left that same afternoon, the next stage of a journey with no fixed destination and no return date. 3 days later, I received a brief reply from Daniel, thanking me for the apartment and including, without any comment, a photo of Valeria. She was beautiful with Sarah's delicate features and a mop of dark hair that reminded me of her grandfather. I saved the photo but did not reply. That night, I called Diane. They are having a really hard time, aren't they? I asked after greetings. Yes, she said simply, but they are getting by. Sarah's job offer is real. A good position, better paid. Michael took a financial planning course, if you can believe it. Apparently now he is quite the expert on budgets. I laughed softly. Better late than never, I suppose? Do you have doubts, she asked carefully. About the money, no. About having cut them off completely. Sometimes, I admitted. I see that photo of Valeria and wonder if I am punishing an innocent child for her parents' mistakes. You are not punishing anyone, Emily. You are living your life. There is a difference. Is there? I murmured. Sometimes it feels like a very thin line. The difference, she said firmly, is the intention. You did not leave to hurt them. You left to save yourself. I thought about that as I watched the illuminated skyline of Tokyo from my window. I offered them the apartment. I know. Daniel called me yesterday. He was grateful, although Sarah hasn't said a word about it. She wouldn't, I replied. Pride runs deep in this family. I wonder where she got it from, Diane joked. After hanging up, I spent a long time thinking about family, about decisions, about the domino effect of a single moment in an entrance frozen by silence. Had I done the right thing? By traditional standards, probably not. A good mother would have forgiven, would have returned, would have kept sacrificing. But those standards almost destroyed me and allowed behaviors that belittled us all. In the end, the question was not if I had done the right thing, but if I could live with the decision I made. And the answer, increasingly, was yes. Exactly 1 year after that fateful Christmas, I found myself on a beach in New Zealand watching the sunrise of what would be a warm summer day in the Southern Hemisphere. My phone vibrated with a message from an international number I did not recognize. It is Sarah. Daniel gave me your number. Valeria took her first steps yesterday. I recorded it. I thought maybe you would want to see it without pressure to respond. Attached was a video. I watched it with a curious distance. A little girl with dark hair wobbling across the living room arms, outstretched toward the camera face, lit up with triumph and joy. It was the first direct communication from Sarah in a year. No demands, no accusations, no attempts to make me feel guilty. Just a grandmother moment shared freely. I saved the video but did not reply immediately. Later that same day, I sent a simple response. Thank you for sharing this. She is beautiful. It was not forgiveness. It was not reconciliation. But it was something. A small crack in the wall between us that let in enough light to see that maybe someday there could be a path forward, not back to what we were. That relationship was gone forever, but perhaps towards something new, something with boundaries, something based on choice and not obligation. As the sun rose over the Pacific, I walked along the shore, feet sinking into the warm sand. In front of me stretched miles of beach yet to be traveled. Behind me, a trail of footprints that the incoming tide was already beginning to erase. I had no idea where that path would take me. But for the first time in my life, that uncertainty did not scare me. It excited me because it was my path, my choice, my life. And no one, not even my children, would ever take it away from me again. Thank you for staying until the end and listening to my story. Sometimes choosing ourselves hurts, but it also heals. If anything about this journey touched your heart, like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my place? Your voice can be the hug someone else needs today.